If you consider yourself a hardcore enthusiast, you've definitely heard about the legendary ZR1 badge, the emblem that's crowned the absolute fastest Corvettes across multiple generations. You've probably spotted the ZR2 designation too, now plastered across Chevrolet's most capable off-road beasts like the Colorado ZR2 and Silverado ZR2. But here's what'll blow your mind. For exactly 1 year, the ZR2 badge appeared on a Corvette. Just 12 months. 12 extraordinary machines. One final explosive goodbye to big block American brutality before emissions regulations strangled the life out of raw horsepower forever, and Chevrolet deliberately tried to hide it from you. Before we dive into this insanity, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell right now, because what I'm about to reveal about this forbidden beast will fundamentally change how you view American muscle car history. Chevrolet didn't just underrate this monster. They actively sabotaged its own success. And you need to understand why. Picture this nightmare scenario. 1971. The American automotive landscape wasn't just changing, it was collapsing under governmental assault. Federal bureaucrats were deploying suffocating emission standards and draconian safety mandates that were systematically executing performance vehicles. The glorious muscle car era wasn't fading gracefully. It was being assassinated by regulation. Compression ratios were being slashed mercilessly. High-octane fuel was disappearing from pumps nationwide. Insurance companies were multiplying premiums on anything remotely powerful, pricing young enthusiasts completely out of the market. The free-breathing, fire-breathing monsters that defined the 1960s were gasping their final breaths. Manufacturers across Detroit were frantically waving white flags. Ford neutered the Mustang. Dodge eviscerated the Charger's performance credentials. Plymouth watched helplessly as the Roadrunner's teeth were pulled one by one. Everyone was downsizing engines, destroying performance specifications, and desperately hoping they'd survive the regulatory apocalypse. But Chevrolet, they had different plans. Deep within their engineering departments, a group of absolute madmen refused to surrender. They weren't interested in compliance. They weren't concerned about playing nice with regulators. They wanted to deliver one final devastating statement before the doors slammed shut on American performance forever. While Corvette outwardly adapted like every other manufacturer, offering politically correct lower compression ratios and smaller displacement options to appease the regulatory gods, something far more sinister was brewing in Chevrolet's performance division. Engineers were secretly assembling what would become the most potent, most focused, most uncompromising Corvette package ever conceived. They called it the ZR2. This wasn't some half-hearted attempt at performance. This wasn't a marketing department's fantasy wrapped in chrome and empty promises. The ZR2 represented a genuine track weapon disguised as a street car. Engineered exclusively around the apocalyptic 454 cubic inch LS6 big block V8. An engine so powerful that Chevrolet's own executives were terrified of its capabilities. The ZR2 philosophy was revolutionary in its brutality. Strip away every luxury, eliminate every comfort, remove every unnecessary molecule of weight. Air conditioning? Gone. Power steering? Unnecessary. Radio? Who needs music when you have 454 cubic inches of American fury screaming behind the firewall? If you wanted comfort, you'd buy a standard Corvette with its civilized options. The ZR2 existed for one singular purpose: absolute domination of racetracks and complete annihilation of drag strips. This wasn't transportation for someone experiencing a midlife crisis. This was the vehicle that would cause a full-blown existential crisis when you buried the throttle mid-corner. Here's where Chevrolet's deception reached genius levels. From the outside, the ZR2 looked virtually identical to any other 1971 Corvette. Same aggressive Stingray silhouette, same distinctive pinched waistline, same gorgeous combination of flowing curves meeting angular aggression. Park a ZR2 next to a base model, and 99% of people would walk right past without noticing any difference. No wild hood scoops, no garish racing stripes, no obnoxious badging. The ZR2 was the automotive equivalent of a special forces operator, dressed like everyone else but carrying capabilities that could end you instantly. The interior continued this masterclass in understatement. You got gauges, lots of functional, no-nonsense gauges. But creature comforts? Forget it entirely. Compared to sophisticated European sports cars arriving from Porsche and Ferrari, the Corvette cabin was absolutely Spartan. All business, zero pretense. But what those fancy European machines with their leather interiors couldn't even dream of touching was what lurked beneath the ZR2's hood, waiting like a caged apex predator to unleash absolute chaos. At the ZR2's core sat the LS6, and we're talking about the original 454 cubic inch, 7.4-liter big block monster, not the modern LS6 that later appeared in the C506. This was old-school American displacement philosophy taken to its most extreme, logical, and utterly insane conclusion. The foundation was pure cast iron, the same brutally strong block architecture used in the contemporary LS5. But the LS6 transcended ordinary big block status with aluminum cylinder heads that breathed like atmosphere had become optional, solid lifters that refused to float at high RPM, and massive 4-bolt main bearings that could withstand punishment that would destroy lesser engines. Official specifications claim 425 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 475 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Even with its reduced 9.0.1 compression ratio, mandated specifically for unleaded gasoline compatibility, this engine consumed fuel through a massive Holley carburetor rated around 800 CFM, like a mechanical dragon breathing fire. An earlier 1970 Chevelle SS version ran 11.0.1 compression and carried an official rating of 450 horsepower. But here's the conspiracy that automotive journalists and industry insiders have whispered about for over 5 decades. Chevrolet deliberately sandbagged those horsepower numbers. Corporate lawyers were terrified of insurance implications. Marketing departments feared attracting government scrutiny. Executives worried about liability lawsuits when inexperienced drivers inevitably crash these machines. So they underrated the LS6's true output by margins that border on criminal misrepresentation. Period testers and dyno operators widely speculated, backed by actual testing data, that stock LS6 motors produce performance completely consistent with 500 horsepower, not the pathetically conservative 425 figure stamped on official documentation. Some witnesses claim bone stock examples exceeded 520 horsepower on accurate dynamometers. Consider this damning evidence. The standard LS5 big block, sharing the exact same 454 cubic inch displacement, only managed 365 horsepower in 1971. That's a 60 horsepower gap on paper between engines with identical displacement. In reality, the performance gap was probably double that figure. The LS6 had appeared in the 1970 Chevelle SS, terrorizing drag strips nationwide. But for 1971, Corvette gained complete exclusivity. Technically, buyers could order the LS6 power plant without the complete ZR2 package. Approximately 180 1971 Corvettes received the LS6 as a standalone engine option. But the ZR2 package transformed those 425 advertised horses into something genuinely transcendent through comprehensive, no-compromise performance upgrades that touched every mechanical system. The ZR2 package included absolutely everything a serious performance driver could possibly want. Muncie M22 Rock Crusher close ratio 4-speed manual transmission, named for its distinctive whining sound and legendary indestructibility. Twin-disc clutch capable of handling the LS6's monstrous torque output without slipping. J56 heavy-duty power disc brakes up front. Aluminum radiator with metal fan shroud engineered specifically for sustained high-speed thermal management during extended track sessions. Upgraded F41 suspension package featuring specially valved springs, performance-tuned shocks, and oversized sway bars engineered to maintain stability and razor-sharp responsiveness at triple-digit speeds. But here's the brilliant, uncompromising twist. The ZR2 package didn't just add performance equipment, it explicitly prohibited anything that increased weight or prioritized comfort over capability. No power steering, forcing drivers to develop actual arm strength and feel. No air conditioning, because race cars don't need climate control. No power windows, because manual windows save precious pounds. No rear defogger. No radio, because the LS6's exhaust note provided the only soundtrack necessary. Not even an alarm system or decorative wheel covers. Every single decision was ruthlessly optimized for one goal: maximum performance. This was a Corvette built exclusively for the focused, skilled driver who craved track domination above all else. With its 425 horsepower rating that everyone knew was complete fiction, the ZR2 rocketed from standstill to 60 miles per hour in just 0.3 seconds, absolutely devastating for 1971 technology. Quarter-mile passes required only 13.6 seconds, with trap speeds consistently exceeding 104 mm on period tire technology. These machines moved with violent purpose and barely controlled fury, consistently running multiple tenths quicker through measured quarter-mile distances than non-ZR2 LS6 Corvettes that carried over 100 additional pounds of unnecessary equipment. Performance like this didn't come cheap, but it represented incredible value. A base 1971 Corvette carried a suggested retail price around $5,500, still competitive against a Porsche 911 at approximately $9,000. Adding the complete ZR2 package tacked on $1,700, pushing the total investment closer to $7,200. But comparing actual performance capabilities, the ZR2 operated in a completely different universe than any European competitor. Dollar for dollar in 1971, nothing new from any manufacturer anywhere on Earth matched its raw capability. Yet only 12 buyers successfully checked every box for the ZR2 package during the entire 1971 model year. 12 total examples, in a year when Chevrolet produced over 21,000 Corvettes. Why such microscopic production numbers? The real reason cuts far deeper and reveals corporate cowardice. Chevrolet was genuinely terrified of their own creation. This machine was too potent, too capable, too legitimately dangerous in inexperienced hands. Corporate executives deliberately suppressed all marketing campaigns. They intentionally generated virtually zero pre-launch publicity. They refused to advertise it through normal channels to mainstream audiences. Dealer allocations were quietly controlled. Press cars mysteriously never appeared for magazine testing. If you wanted a ZR2, you had to already know about it through underground enthusiast networks, racing connections, or insider dealer relationships. Chevrolet essentially created the ultimate performance Corvette, then did everything possible to prevent people from buying it. By 1972, the LS6 Big Block had vanished entirely from Corvette option sheets, leaving only the neutered LS5 for customers still wanting big block power. By 1973, big block Corvettes ceased to exist altogether. The ZR2 represented the absolute final gasp of completely unrestricted American muscle before governmental regulations permanently rewrote the rules forever. While the ZR2 commanded a significant $1,700 premium when new, that price gap has exploded into astronomical territory. A pristine base model small block 1971 Corvette might fetch $50,000 today. When a genuine ZR2 surfaces at auction, hundreds of thousands of dollars minimum. Multiple examples have legitimately crossed the $1 million threshold at major auctions. Here's the incredible part. Of the 12 ZR2s ever constructed, 10 coupes and 2 convertibles, not all have been publicly accounted for in recent years. Somewhere out there in America, forgotten ZR2s might still be hiding in neglected barns, dusty garages, or deceased estate collections. As values continue their relentless climb into seven-figure territory, we'll likely see more examples emerge from decades of obscurity, their owners suddenly realizing they're sitting on automotive gold. The ultimate irony: exponentially more people know about the legendary ZR2 today than when it was brand new, precisely because Chevrolet tried so desperately hard to keep it secret. Their conspiracy of silence failed spectacularly. If you loved learning about this forbidden muscle car that Chevrolet tried to bury, absolutely demolish that like button right now and share this video with every car enthusiast you know. Subscribe to Car History for more insane automotive stories that mainstream channels won't touch. Drop a comment telling me which legendary car we should uncover next. Your support drives this channel forward, and I'm incredibly grateful for every single view. Now get out there and start checking every barn and garage you can find, because one of those 12 ZR2s might be waiting for you to discover it. I'll see you in the next video, enthusiasts.